Hello, everyone. Welcome to November's end of month special. First of all, I'd like to take this time to really thank my supporters for watching my videos throughout the days and even support me on Patreon. So this month I decided to do a special just because I got the time. I was really busy with my new job as well as some other stuff. But mostly the new job was very, very intense, so I didn't get the time to issue as many videos as I wanted. But today I found some really good material for an end of month special. I would like to talk about a ancient game. Between the two best Chinese Go players in the 1700s. So this game is played in the 1700s. Today we'll be looking at what are some of the differences, right, between the games back then and the games of today. This is very interesting, but also this game itself is absolutely amazing. So definitely something worth presenting. So the two players, Huang Longshi is playing as black. He is pretty much the god of Go, right? I think throughout the history, not just of his time. I think he is definitely he is so strong that that he's definitely, like, if you think about today's level, he's definitely at a similar level of Ke Jie, and maybe even better, I would say, right? Well, Ke Jie without help of AI, well, I don't know really. With this time of AI, things get weird, but I would say his level is absolutely crazy. His understanding of Go is definitely at the top of the world of all time. His opponent, Zhou Dongho, is slightly worse, right? But he's still a match of Huang Longshi, right? He's very strong player. He understands Go pretty much just as good as Huang Longshi, but I think Huang Longshi was more talented, right? It was more gifted just in this game. So their history, match history, Huang Longshi was dominating most of the time, but Zhou Dongho managed to maybe win a few games here and there, but most of the time it's Huang Longshi who really dominates the board. So today we'll be looking at one of their best games. This is the starting position of the game. So back in the days, the game does not start with an empty board. So both players will have two stones on the board. That's their starting position, right? And it has to be cross star points. So, I think this is a rule that really limits a lot of development of Go back in the ancient times. But, it is what it is. It's history, and nothing we can do about it. And the rules are very different. As we can tell, the first move is actually played by white. So this is very interesting. So let's get started. White approaches and black starts out with a big knight defense. This is a very, very different type of Joseki, right, back in the days. So from today's point of view, a lot of players would just directly go into the 3-3 point and take the corner. But back then, the philosophy of Go is more focused onto the center, right? We don't usually go to opponents 3-3, which is drastically different from today's point of view, right? You start going into 3-3 at move 5. But back then, the 3-3 wasn't even a Joseki. That shows you how much Go has developed throughout the years. White plays a 2-space extension. And then we see very weird moves, right? Like this kind of J3 move. It is. I guess it's an acceptable move. It is just. I would like to put it in a positive turn. It just shines to me, right? Because today we're so used to see the usual 3-3 Joseki, or the low approach to the start point, and you attach and you play the AlphaGo, Joseki, those kind of stuff. This is really, really bright, right? In my eyes, it's just awesome to see those kind of moves. And then white follows up with this move. From today's point of view, this is something I also covered in my attacker series, right? Like I said, is that I would probably play out like this as black, right? This would be my understanding of Go. But as we can see back then, the game was a lot more about fighting. It was a lot more. It's a lot less about ideas. Well, there definitely ideas very important, but back then I think fighting was a more important part of the game. That's why you see groups getting cut off into pieces everywhere. So that's one of the main characteristics back then, and we can tell that this kind of moves are very, very popular back then. So that's why we see these kind of patterns all over the place, just splitting each other, and then they start fights everywhere, and it's fireworks everywhere. It's absolutely amazing, and we will see that in the actual game. So both players played a bunch of these moves that looked very, as we can tell, there's some sort of pattern in them. Then the close body combat starts, right? We put the stones in places, and then the fight starts right away. Black honeys, and then white makes a tiger's mouth. Black extends down, and then white honeys on top. So this was a joseki back then. Black turns, white blocks, and then black peeps first. At c3, when white connects, black ataris on top, and then white connects. So the order here is very important. If black atari is here first, this peep might not actually work out, because white might have refutations such as this one, and also the block over here, right? So white might not just connect at d3. So it's very important that you peep at c3 first, and then you're able to get the atari on top, and then we can see white has a very ugly shape. But this was actually joseki back then, mostly because, sure, white has a very ugly shape, but black is also all squeezed, all over here, and then he has to worry about life and death issues. Black extends to make the shape more vivid, and then white attaches, black honeys, white honeys, and then black pulls the stone back, right? This is all very good moves, because here if black ataris, that would be a mistake, because white can atari from behind. White is not going to connect here. White's just going to play this one, and then when this happens, now you try to get back, and then this becomes a very bad situation for black, because it's all squeezed on the bottom. That's why in the actual game we see that Zhou Donghe Huang Longshi understands what's going on, and then just pulls the stone back. White atari's on top, and then black flips atari. Obviously white cannot capture, right? You have a very pleasant time, but your opponent is going to even have a better time by capturing everything here. So at this point, white pushes, black takes, and then white takes. Very beautiful variation. Yeah, I think we can just examine the beauty of an ancient game, right? The best ancient players, they also understand shape very, very, very well, right? Like just as well as today's top players. We can see these exchanges, very, very beautiful. And then black connects back, and then white descends at c8. This is a very well calculated move. So this shows you the reading of ancient players, right? It's not any worse than today's Ke Jie or Xin Jinsei or whoever you name it. There's a lot of readings behind these things. So what white needs to read here? If black plays this one and then ataris, and then extend you have to know what to do. Otherwise, that's game over right here, right? So if you say, hey, I feel like there's some ladder problems for black, and then maybe I can ladder this way. Well, turns out the ladder does not work, right? You can verify by yourself that this ladder is not going to work. And when the ladder does not work, that means it's game over. So the player actually have to read things out, like a lot of things out. So what happens then? If black actually plays out like this, white can first make an exchange here, right? This doesn't really extend white's liberty. But then what white can do is white actually has a Tsuji here at g9. So now black is kind of, it's kind of in trouble, right? Like if you play this one, white can push here first. When you block, white can Atari, and then Atari at h8. And we can tell the ladder here does not work, but now I can ladder you this way. And that's game over, actually, for black. Well, if black resists like this, this is kind of like a useless attempt, because at this point, black has to go back to the same thing, and then white is going to push. Black cannot block anymore, so black pretty much has to just take here, and then white extends out, and now there's a Miai. White's gonna attach at b6, killing the corner, and then white is also threatening to kill this group over here. Not to say the center is not completely settled when white extends at h9. So that's a terrible outcome for black. So that shows you the reading, right? If white does not read Tsuji's out, right? If white cannot read this move, then it's immediately game over, right? This is not the easiest move to read, actually. So both players reads that out, and then that's time for Tsuji. Instead, after Ataring, instead of immediately trying to enclose, black decides to Hane on the first line. And here, reading is really your best friend, right? If white plays this one, black now Ataris, and then if you connect, black Ataris again, and we can all tell that, that's immediately game over for white. So white can only turn, and then black Hanes, and then white needs to stop because there's no more liberties, and white plays out this one. And then black is gonna Atari at c1, forcing white to connect, and then that's the end of variation. So at the end of this variation, I would say the game is fairly equal. Black's able to gain a lot of territory, although there's a b6 attached that's really annoying. White is able to gain a lot of influence on the outside. So the game is very equal, very typical influence versus territory game. So the first fight is over, and then they start the next one. So white Kosumis, and then black squeezes, white connects, black blocks, and then we're back to both guys play the same variation on both sides. That's very, very interesting. And except this time white decides to clamp, black descends, and then after the exchange, they're back to the same thing, except white actually exchanged this one. So after the exchange, black decides to say, hey, since you have exchanged that one, I'm going to immediately kill the two stones here to make sure that my Q1 gains a lot of points. Right? This is a loss of points for white with this exchange. So that's a very smart idea. White invades, and then black extends. And then white needs to deal with this group because it's not completely alive yet. So after that, both players decides to play another attach, right? This is like the 3-3 Joseki back then. And this time, we can tell the ideas of white, right? So ancient players, not only they're good at reading, but a lot of times they find really good ideas. So if white actually decides to, play out the same thing, that's not going to be great, because at this point, we can tell there's a lot of over concentration onto the left side for white, right? This wall is not doing much because it's all limited by black over here. And black, on the other hand, has a lot of territory in the corner. So the ancient players are very, very flexible, actually, right? This time, white decided to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to build over concentration on this area. Rather, I'm going to take the corner. So very brilliant move at c17. Black makes tiger's mouth, and then white hops out. So now black is going to honey here because it works. White cannot play this because black can pull the stone back. So instead, white decides to pull the stone out, black descends, and then now white connects the stone back with a clamp. So white is able to secure some territory while black gains some influence that will cancel out white's influence over here. The next move is probably the best move in the game for black to run the stone. So this running, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work not because the ladder works for black. The problem is white is not going to Atari here, rather there's a clamp over here. And there's no way for black to actually run out because this is not going to work out for black, right? I can leave you to verify that. But why does black run, right? This shows you why Huang Longshi is actually the god of Go throughout the history. It's because the aji that it creates with this sacrifice. After this clamp, now we can tell it doesn't work immediately, but I can start some fights over here, right? And then make use of the aji that you have over here. So this is a very advanced idea, right? Even in today's games, this is used all the time as a very advanced idea. So the players decide to, start some skirmish, and then you can see the strength of the black player Huang Longshi, right? The next move is to push at c12. Such aggressive move, leaving a double Atari and still pushes, making sure that white cannot breathe here. White Ataris, black extends, white Ataris, and then white decides to use this strategy to get himself out. Right? We can see there are a lot of problems over here, and then white connects at the right place. So there's a double Atari, but white can connect over here. When you take, white can grab the stone back, and then there's actually no problem here. So white has successfully defended aggression from black. So instead of double Ataring, black decides to Atari from behind and then connect the stone back. And next move, absolutely crucial move, right? This looks like a small move, but it's actually the biggest move on the board. If white plays anything else, black will immediately play out this one. So not only this thing basically kills these three guys, it makes black alive. It has points, and then it makes black alive. So it's security plus points. And then look at white. White is not alive right now. So it's security for both sides plus points. So that's the biggest move on the board. White cannot afford to lose this crucial b17 point. Black exchanges once and then plays b7, right? That's just the follow-up that black has. White needs to defend. And then black now deals with this group that is still not alive yet. After a few exchanges, both sides are settled, right? White gains compensation on the top side, and then black settles himself. And now the sacrifice still has value, right? Black plays the J7 move. This is a brilliant move that threatens white's group over here, But if white gets too, or white thinks too simply, just, you know what, I'm just going to get myself out, that's immediately game over, right? Because after this exchange, black is able to Atari out, right? And that's just disastrous for white. I can cut here and then everything here just falls apart. So that's a trap, right? White needs to deal with the stuff over here. So white decides to push and then make a bamboo shape, making sure that nothing happens over here. And then Huang Longshi shows that, shows why he's the best player in China, right? Back then. He decides to peep right in here, making sure white cannot live inside. White blocks, and then black plays the bamboo shape. White connects, and then black seals white inside. This is a very difficult situation for the white player. So normally for a normal player, like a player who's not at their level, it's very easy to just play something like this, and then that's just game over immediately, right? Like this is just over, right? Black kills white, and then that's game over right here. Very simple. Or if white decides to extend, right? It looks aggressive. It looks like a counterattack, but these counterattacks are not based on calculations. They're mostly just suicides, right? Black is gonna squeeze here, and then white gets killed inside because white is lacking life and death knowledge, or just not really good at reading things out. So at this point, it's a very difficult situation for white, actually, right? This group is not alive. It's getting sealed inside. But white plays a brilliant move at N7. So if black connects here, white is actually able to have some sort of ko over here, right? So white is able to play out this one, and then this becomes like a ko, right? If you play this one, I'm able to make a ko here. If black connects, I can play this one. So it's a ko regardless. So there's a ko inside, and then white already gains a very valuable move. So the game will be actually very, very playable for white if black just, without thinking, just connect over here. That obviously is not what the best player in China would do, right? Simply make a pointless connection. Rather, black decides to attach here. White pushes out and then extend the stone. And then black counterattacks. Obviously, the counterattack is way better than if you just try to fix your weakness, right? So this shows you the strength of Huang Longshi. So every single move looks for counterattack. Every single move looks for aggression. That's what makes you pretty much the best player. White pushes and then extends out. Black connects, and then white turns here. Right? White really wants to just go back and fix, right? But it doesn't work, right? Like after a few pushes, this guy is pretty much just gone. And yeah, that's just over, right? That's just game over. It's too big. So instead, white really has to turn, making sure that the thickness difference here is under his control, right? And whatever happens over here, well, there's still a ko going on inside this corner, inside this group. So instead, white decides to actually just push over here. Black decides to push over here. And then we see something weird, is that white cannot even connect anymore. So if white connects, black is going to push on top. If white comes back, when black Ataris, white is essentially just dead, right? Like if you play this one, black can capture you, and then that's game over. You play this one, I Atari first, and then I fix. That's game over right here, right? So, and what else can you play? If you try to cut, I can Atari you first, and then that's also game over. White is dead, and then there's no way to capture the 3 guys over here. So white cannot Atari at k5. And then if white plays this one, well, that's just time for black to perform. So to basically give a show, right? Like this is a typical textbook way that you defeat your opponent. So there's a capture over here, and then there is a capture over here. So when these 5 guys are captured, means these guys have no worries. So that's game over right here. That's why at this point, white cannot connect anymore, which is really, really crazy game, right? Both player reads it out, and then they just realize, you know what? These things are not important. What's important? It's the outside. White has to fix the outside, making sure he's got, he's got the influence. Black says, you don't want to take the cash, I'm going to take the cash, right? 30 points in my hand already. And then white decides to counterattack. So at this point, for a normal player, this looks like a hopeless game, right? The outside is not settled, and then black already has so much profits. And then it just feels like it's a time to resign for white. But actually, white put up the most nasty struggle. That shows his opponent that he's also a very, very good player. And this is a very nice move that that is just at the vital point of this entire group. What white's saying is that I'm going to try to kill your entire group over here. Black obviously has to connect, and then white runs out. And all of a sudden, we can see that black has no eye. You might be wondering, well, doesn't black have one eye over here? Well, we will see what happens. Black pushes, white extends, push again, and then hop out. And then white decides to play g16. The reason you don't have an eye is I can get rid of this eye in Sente. There's a connection problem. Black exchanged one move and then connects, and then we can tell that this entire dragon has no eye. And then white starts a fierce counterattack to compensate for whatever he lost. Black hops out, and then white cuts off the connection. And then Huang Longshi really shows you why he is the best player in China, right? Like for a normal, a good player, I wouldn't even say normal player, a good player, a move would be like this, right? This threatens to attach at h11. White has to fix, and then when you push, white gets out, you still have a cutting point. This is still extremely weak over here. So, good luck living here, right? This is just a very difficult game for black. But for Huang Longshi, this is all jokes, right? This is all very, very easy because of his tremendous reading skills. That is to attach at L11. The worst option that white has is to push over here, right? Letting black, getting this kind of moves. If you play this one, there's so many ways to win, right? Like you can just play out like this, and then that's game over. So yeah, basically white does not want to play any moves in here because this push is a Sente. The correct move is for white to extend, and that's the move that is played. So here, both guys read really, really well, right? Like if you say, hey, do I got the time to play a move here, making sure you have nothing? Black is going to have a Tsuji over here, and then that's immediately you just um, I think immediately you will have some sort of problem going on over here when attaches. I didn't even read this out. Sorry about that. So why it doesn't work, right? The reason it doesn't work is not because you can capture this group. Rather, you have a huge problem over here. This actually kills the 3 stones over here and then connect black back, right? So that's why this attach is going to work out. So white obviously cannot allow that. White has to play what he played in the game, making sure there's nothing going on over here. And then we can just see the monstrous reading skills of black, the black player, right? The god of Go. I'd say if you want me really compare him with today's Ke Jie or Shin Jinsei or Park Jang-hwan, I really think they're at the same level. I even, when I was watching this game, I felt that he's probably even at a better level when it comes to reading, right? All these moves, it's just Tesujis after Tesujis after Tesujis. Like, I mean, that is just crazy. Like, normally you don't think about this kind of game, right? You leave a weakness over here. But then we'll see what happens, right? When white try to attack these weaknesses, is black pushes back, white takes, and then black starts to counterattack at 016. So if you've been a fan of my Invader videos, you will clearly see the principle of counterattack all the time in this game, right? When black is dying, his idea is just to counter kill white all the time. White pushes and cut, and then black peeps over here, right? Instead of freaking out and try to connect himself, black doesn't even think about it. Black just goes for the counterattack. White Ataris, and then black Ataris over here. It's also great reading here, right? If you play this one, I mean, that's just horrible. Like, you will immediately collapse, and that's game over. Your dragon is dead. You cannot misread a single move in this situation. After this Atari, white connects, and then black pushes here. We can already tell, like, these guys are too weak, so white does not really have time to save the 2 stones over here. Instead, white extends out. After an exchange, black plays L18, a beautiful move that connects everything. There's no more cutting point over here. That means these 3 guys are also very safe. So at this point, we can tell that, you know, black earned all these in the corner. That's 40 points. Black got himself out with tons of points, right? Not only he lived himself, he also killed the 2 stones over here. And then here, white has a trailing group over here that's gonna be a ko, because it's gonna be a ko. If you play somewhere else, black squeeze here and then connects, and then that's a ko alive. So black has the potential to kill the group over here. So I mean, white lost everything, right? White lost this, white lost this, white still has this as depth. So is it time to resign? Well, not really. And this shows you the opponent of Huang Rongshi is also an extremely good player. So even at this point, the game is still not over. White decides to play Q8, and then his goal is to kill everything over here. This is a sente though. If black tries to do anything, there is a huge problem over here. There's a snapback like this, right? When black takes, white can take back. So obviously, the best player in China would obviously read that out and then fix the problem. And then white gets the time, says, you know, I'm gonna pay off my student debt over here, right? I'm gonna get rid of this, and then let's, you know, go for an endgame. So if black actually just goes for the endgame, right? Let's say, for example, we place this, white fix everything here, black goes for the corner. Black is actually going to lose the game because white has a lot of points in the center, connected to the side. This corner is extremely large with 10 points. And then there's a lot of points, a lot of changes that white has over here, right? Like it's very, very good points here too. So black's actually going to lose if he plays like this. And obviously Huang Longshi realizes that, and then he decides to go to really show, show his tremendous reading skills. So after an exchange over here, black decides to hop into white's territory. White cuts, and then black squeezes over here. A beautiful move, right? This is the game-winning move, kind of, for Huang Longshi, right? If you play something else, this looks like a good shape, but after white, when white plays this one, good luck living here, right? White is just way too thick. But instead, well, what we should do when we try to live is to always look at our opponent's weakness. That's the best way for you to live. White Ataris, and then goes back. And then black Ataris, white Ataris from the top, and then black takes, and then white Ataris. And this is a very important point. If black gets greedy and then connects, white's going to connect, and then there's no way for black to win this liberty fight. Instead, it is a great time to just slide back. White takes, and then black hops back at R7. So with such beautiful maneuvering, Huang Longshi was able to connect everything back. Not only that, but he also gained a lot of points in this process, and that's just the crazy part. All right, so white decides to exchange a few moves, and then black was even able to get this Incente, and then Ataris over here. After a couple of exchanges, white's getting the biggest move on the board. This is 20 points and plus. Yeah, this corner, is just really, really large. And then when black blocks, white decides to play this one. So both players kept playing for a little bit, but I think at this point the game was determined by this beautiful fight that that ended up being won by Huang Longshi. So at this point, white is really behind, right? Like white is behind by 7 to 8 points. And then remember, white actually started first, right? Even with today's Komi, this is a hopeless game for. Well, even with today's Komi, this would be actually worse for white, because back then there was no Komi. So black would actually just win by 7 to 8 points. But if with today's Komi, he would be winning by 14, 15 points. Nevertheless, this was a beautiful game where I think both players really show their ability to read, and then obviously also some great ideas, a great understanding of this beautiful game. And then I guess the observation that we made is that, first of all, there's a lot of fights in ancient people games. And that's actually true for many, many professional games back then. The other thing we observe is obviously in the rules difference, right? Like white actually starts first, and then we have a initial starting position. That's the cross star points. Anyway, many great stuff, right? It's just so awesome to actually observe the difference between the top-notch games of different times, right? With today's AI, when you look at the games from 8 years ago, I personally actually I'm not used to them anymore. But if you watch the games from the ancient times, wow, it's just amazing. So I don't know if you guys enjoy the game as well as I did. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great end of November, and I will see you in the next video.